This the Georgia Peach, a host with the most. We're gonna get in here with a little bit of this A History of Physics by Jordan Maxwell. This is gonna be part one. A History of Physics by Jordan Maxwell. Make sure y'all smash that like button, subscribe if you're not already, share the video. If you like what you're hearing, drop a comment down in the chat. All right, my loves.
The starts of anything, such as a connected history of this science that currently is called physics, might be put with substantial definiteness about the start of the 17th century and also related to the excellent title of Galileo. It is obviously true that countless isolated facts were known for several centuries that are currently included among the information of the science, and lots of programs and simple machines that are currently considered applications of physiological principles were invented and utilized. Even ancient man knew a number of them to his very fantastic benefit. However, with one major exception, which is said previously, there has been at the early world no linked body of knowledge within this area that can correctly be called scientific. In this respect, physics disagrees significantly in math or natural history or medication, or every one of which started its contemporary livelihood with a store of scientific understanding that was obtained and placed in order prior to the Renaissance. The cause of this distinction is to be seen in the simple fact that the advancement of physics depends upon almost in step one on the technique of experimentation as distinguished by the procedure of monitoring. For many unknown emotional motives, the recognition of the chances of experimentation as an intellectual instrument and the capacity to generate use of its method seems quite late in the background of human improvement. Modern tendencies in the historiography of mathematics have contributed to some rethinking of lots of the basic regions of the background of mathematics. Composing a decent background has begun to need a sensitivity to the material of a physicist's human contribution and also to the cultural, institutional, and financial situation in which the donation has been created. The publication History of Physics attempts to research this complexity through cases of cutting-edge composing in what's become considered an essentially vibrant region of historical study. By introducing a broad diversity of research in one volume, it provides a flavor of technical contributions which have tended to become dispersed in books and journals not readily accessible to the reader. Chapter 1: History of Physics. The background of physics, although integrating elements of this nice math and astronomy practiced from the Babylonians, Indians, Egyptians, and Zoroastrians, mostly stayed embedded into the supernatural world of the gods. It wasn't till the methodological and theoretical approach to the ancient Greeks that math from its contemporary form seemed based on math and first principles instead of superstition. Selecting the background of early physics can be hard, mainly because it's very hard to distinguish it from different areas like astronomy, math, and alchemy. Science had to divide into recognizable areas or even different entirely from theology and doctrine so that there was some overlap at the background of physics in this stage. The history of physics, the child of mathematics and philosophy. Greek culture, by historic criteria, was tremendously stable, regardless of the squabbles involving the city-states of Athens, Sparta, and Thebes, among others. This equilibrium in wealth enabled the arts and doctrine to flourish, together with Homeric poets and gifted playwrights sharing the intellectual world with a few of the best philosophers the planet has ever known. From theoretical math, true astronomy, and complex doctrine spanned historical physics, an effort to describe the world and discover the legislation which governed the world. The early Greeks thought that the world was compatible, ideal, and regulated by laws that were tasteful and specimens as laid out by mathematicians like Pythagoras and Euclid. Before Aristotle, atomism and organic legislation. Thales had been the very first physicist, and his concepts really gave the subject its own title. He also thought that the planet, although made from several substances, was actually built of just one component, water, also known as physics in ancient Greek. The interaction with water in the stages of solid, gas, and liquid gave substances different possessions. This is the very first excuse to take natural happenings from the kingdom of divine providence and to the domain of pure explanations and laws. Anaximander, famous for his pro-evolutionary concept, contested the thoughts of Thales and suggested that instead of plain water, a material known as a peryon had been the building block of matter. With the assistance of contemporary hindsight, we could say that this is another wise figure from Anaximander, and quite much like the thought of that hydrogen would be the building block of matter in our world. Heraclitus, approximately 500 BC, suggested that the sole basic law assessing the world was the main of shift, and nothing stays in precisely the exact same country forever. This monitoring made him among the earliest scholars in early physics to deal with part of the time in the world, among the most essential theories even in today's history of physics. Among the earliest celebrated ancient physicists had been Leucippus, 5th century BC, who adamantly opposed the concept of immediate divine intervention from the world. The philosopher rather suggested that organic phenomena was a pure cause. Leucippus and his pupil Democritus produced the initial nuclear concept, asserting that things couldn't be split indefinitely and that you'd finally arrive at different bits that wouldn't be able to be cut. These are known as carcinogens by atom, not cut. Nevertheless, this specific milestone in the history of math could lie left before almost 2 millennia after. This concept led to the atomists suggesting these molecules were regulated by strict regulations instead of divine providence. The elimination of free spirit from early physics was an opinion which produced these philosophers detested by Plato. Mathematical items such as numbers and points are discussed in nature or created by humans. One of Benjamin Price's great mathematicians says that mathematics is the science that draws the necessary conclusions. On the other side, Einstein thought, as far as mathematical laws are concerned with truth, they are not sure, and they do not apply to nature as far as they are certain. Mathematics has been derived from logical reasoning, counting, calculation, measuring, and systematic studies, such as form or movement. We may assume that since written records occur, mathematics was a human concern. In ancient Greek, in Euclid's Elements, the first difficult mathematical elements appeared. In China, 300 BC, India, 100 CE, and Arabia, 800 CE, mathematics was established. In Renaissance mathematics, most new scientific discoveries begin to connect with and validate, and this has resulted in a rapid expansion of this discipline and high interest that is present and has grown in the world of today. It is used as a fundamental tool in many areas covering natural sciences, engineering, medicine, and social sciences. The category that takes care of possibilities and ways to apply it in many different areas is applied mathematics. For example, we have statistics, thanks to it. Mathematicians also took a clear mathematical path to study strictly. The word mathematics derives from matho, Greek, mean research, science, education, and has a specific meaning, mathematical practice, which was present in classical times. The term produced was specifically connected with the learning experiences, and in Latin, ars mathematica literally meant mathematical art. It has been demonstrated that even prehistoric individuals have been able to count quantities directly connected to time, days, seasons, and years. Obviously, basic arithmetic followed. Mathematics could generally be divided into quantitative, structural, and spatial studies, and a change, algebra, and analysis. There are also other main links from the mathematics tree: logic, the theory of foundations, empirical mathematics, mentioned above, and the most recent theory of uncertainty studies. Is mathematics eternal? Complex, simple, ugly, elegant, beautiful, explains everything, success story, basic foundation, etc. These are often mathematical words and phrases, especially beauty and elegance. That alone does not eternalize mathematics. I think there would be a kind of mathematics to cover, no matter what the rules, concepts, and relationships of physics may prove to be. However, many of our mathematics is not related to our physics, for example, of the inverse cube relationship. Is eternal mathematics too? What is mathematics status? Is mathematics forever? There is no status outside the human mind in mathematics. Mathematics, therefore, is just as eternal as the duration of human minds. Mathematics was the invention of the human mind because I do not know of any other form of life that abstractly employs mathematics to help people cope with the many and also invented complexities of human society. Mathematics provides practical applications such as navigation and provides the natural world, which rules the human roast, with order and predictability. Mathematics is not something because it has no physical properties and can't be identified through any of the sensory instruments. Of course, if we are in a simulated universe, virtual reality, then we exist totally in and as a mathematical structure. Obviously, mathematics can also be the invention of extraterrestrial intelligence, and mathematics can last indefinitely in the cosmos as long as intelligent life forms are free to use and misuse mathematical innovations. Chapter 2: Physics and the New Science. Galileo's Mechanics of Organic Motion and Projectiles. Galileo's first curiosity was mechanics, the use of math to equilibrium conditions, statics, and also to movement, kinematics, and dynamics, the thing of which would be to decrease those areas to geometry with no concealed powers or properties. This curiosity never abandoned him. It is the topic of a lot of his best work and his own way of investigation for virtually everything. What's frequently called Platonianism at Galileo, his fascination with math in idealized states, is in reality the subjective mathematical evaluation of mechanisms, and he also came to respect anything external mechanisms, whatever not subject to mathematical investigation, whatever invoking hidden triggers rather than within the constraints of character. His mechanical method of thinking was that his own, it had been how his brain worked, and that he learned it from just a couple before mathematicians. People of interest for him were Italians of the 19th century at the convention called functional geometry, contemplating both pure and applied physics, mechanics, and also the essential.
A certain part of his own anatomy. If you will again turn to the picture of the spade, you will see, if you have ever forward, the greatest dedication. This reprinted edition of the Initiates of the Flame is dedicated by the editor to all who seek the light of wisdom through the flesh of darkness. He who lives the life shall know the doctrine. The Initiates of the Flame. Introduction. Few realize that even at the present state of civilization in this world, There are souls who, like the priests of the ancient temples, walk the earth and watch and guard the sacred fires that burn upon the altar of humanity. Purified ones they are, who have renounced the life of this sphere in order to guard and protect the flame, that spiritual principle in man now hidden beneath the ruins of his fallen temple. As we think of the nations that are past, of Greece and Rome, and the grandeur that was Egypt's, we sigh as we recall the story of their fall, and we watch the nations of today, not knowing which will be the next to draw its shroud around itself and join that great ghostly file of peoples that are dead. But everywhere, even in the rise and fall of nations, we see through the haze of materiality, justice. Everywhere we see reward, not of man, but of the invincible one, the eternal flame. A great hand reaches out from the unseen and regulates the affairs of man. It reaches out from that great spiritual flame which nourishes all created things, the never-dying fire that burns on the sacred altar of cosmos. That great fire which is the spirit of God. If we turn again to the races now dead, we shall, if we look, find the cause of their destruction. The light had gone out. When the flame within the body is withdrawn, the body is dead. When the light was taken from the altar, the temple was no longer the dwelling place of a living God. Degeneracy, lust, and passion, hates and fears crept into the souls of Greece and Rome, and black magic overshadowed Egypt. The light upon the altar grew weaker and weaker. The priests lost the word, the name of the flame. Little by little, the flame flickered out, and as the last spark grew cold, a mighty nation died, buried beneath the dead ashes of its own spiritual fire. But the flame did not die. Like spirit of which it is the essence, it cannot die, because it is life, and life cannot cease to be. In some wilderness of land or sea, it rested once again, and there rose a mighty nation around that flame. So history goes on through the ages. As long as a people are true to the flame, it remains. But when they cease to nourish it with their lives, it goes on to other lands and other worlds. Those who worship this flame are now called heathens. Little do we realize that we are heathen ourselves until we are baptized of the Holy Spirit, which is fire, for fire is light, and the children of the flame are the sons of light, even as God is light. There are those who have for ages labored with man to help him to kindle with himself this spark, which is his divine birthright. It is these who by their lives of self-sacrifice and service have awakened and tended this fire, and who through the ages, and who through ages of study, have learned the mystery it contained, that we now call the initiates of the flame. For ages they have labored with mankind to help him to uncover the light within himself, and on the pages of history they have left their seal, the seal of fire. Unhonored and unsung, they have labored with humanity, and now their lives are used as fairy stories to amuse children. But the time will yet come when the world shall know the work they did, and realize that our present civilization is raised upon the shoulders of the mighty demigods of the past. We stand as Faust stood, with all our lore, a fool, no wiser than before, because we refuse to take the truths they gave us and the evidence of their experiences. Let us honor these sons of the flame, not by words, but by so living that their sacrifice shall not be in vain. They have shown us the way. They have led man to the gateway of the unknown, and there, in their robes of glory, passed behind the veil. Their lives were the key to their wisdom, as it must always be. They have gone, but in history they stand, milestones on the road of human progression. Let us watch these mighty ones as they pass silently by. First, Orpheus, playing upon the seven-string lyre of his own being, the music of the spheres. Then Hermes, the thrice greatest, with his emerald tablet of divine revelation. Through the shades of the past, we dimly see Krishna, the illuminated, who on the battlefield of life taught man the mysteries of his own soul. Then we see the sublime Buddha, his yellow robe not half so glorious as the heart it covered, and our own dear master, the man Jesus, his head surrounded with a halo of golden flame, and his brow serene with the calm of mastery. Then Muhammad, Zoroaster, Confucius, Odin, and Moses, and others no less worthy passed by before the eyes of the student. They were the sons of flame. From the flame they came, and to the flame they have returned. To us they beckon and bid us join them, and in our robes of self-earned glory to serve the flame they love. They were without creed or clan. They served but the one great ideal. From the same place they all came, and to the same place they have returned. There was no superiority there. Hand in hand, they labor for humanity. Each loves the other, for the power that has made them masters has shown them the brotherhood of all life. In the pages that follow, we will try to show this great thread, the spiritual thread, the thread of living fire that winds in and out through all religions and binds them together with a mutual idea and mutual needs. In the story of the Grail and the legends of King Arthur, we find that thread wound around the table of the king and the temple of Mount Salvard. This same thread of life that passes through the roses of the Rosicrucians winds among the petals of the lotus and among the temple pillars of Luxor. There is but one religion in all the world, and that is the worship of God, the spiritual flame of the universe. Under many names he is known in all lands, but as Iswari or Ammon or God, he is the same, the creator of the universe, and fire is his universal symbol. We are the flame-born sons of God, thrown out as sparks from the wheels of the infinite. Around this flame we have built forms which have hidden our light, but as students, we are increasing this light by love and service, until it shall again proclaim us sons of the eternal. Within us burns that flame, and before its altar, the lower man must. Chapter 3. The Mystery of the Alchemist. There are very few occult students today who have not heard of the alchemist, but there are very few who know anything about the strange men who lived during the Middle Ages and concealed under chemical symbolism the history of the soul. At a time when to express a religious thought was to court annihilation at the stake or wheel, they labored silently in underground caves and cellars to learn the mysteries of nature, which the religious opinions of their day denied them the privilege of doing. Let us picture the alchemist of old, deep in the study of natural lore. We find him among the test tubes and retorts of his hidden laboratory. Around him are massive tomes and books by ancient writers. He is a student of nature's mystery and has devoted years, lives maybe, to the work he loves. His hair has long since grayed with age. By the light of his little lamp, he reads slowly and with difficulty the strange symbols on the pages before him. His mind is centered upon one thing, and that is the finding of the philosopher's stone. With all the chemicals at his command, their various combinations thoroughly understood, he is laboring with his furnace and his burners to make of the base metals the philosopher's gold. At last, he finds the key and gives to the world the secret of the philosopher's gold and the immortal stone. Salt, sulfur, and mercury are the answer to his problem. From them he makes the philosopher's stone. From them he extracts the elixir of life. With the power that they give him, he transmutes the base metals into gold. The world laughs at him, but he goes on in silence, really doing the things the world believes impossible. After many years of labor, he takes his little lamp and silently slips away into the great unknown. No one knows what he has done or the discoveries that he has made, but he, with his little lamp, still explores the mysteries of the universe. As the close of the 15th century clouded him with mystery, so the dawn of the 20th century is crowning him with the glory of his just reward. For the world is beginning to realize the truths he knew, and to marvel at the understanding which his years of labor had earned for him. Man has been an alchemist from the time when he first raised himself, and with the powers long latent pronounced himself as human. Experiences are the chemicals of life, which the philosopher is experimenting with. Nature is the great book whose secrets he seeks to understand through her own wondrous symbolism. His own spiritual flame is the lamp by which he reads, and without this, the printed pages mean nothing to him. His own body is the furnace in which he prepares the philosopher's stone. His senses and organs are the test tubes, and incentive is the flame from the burner. Salt, sulfur, and mercury are the chemicals of his craft. According to the ancient philosophers, salt was of the earth, earthy. Sulfur was a fire, which was spirit, while mercury was nothing, only a messenger, like the winged Hermes of the Greeks. His color is purple, which is the blending of the red and the blue of the spirit and the red of the body. The alchemist realizes that he himself is the philosopher's stone, and that this stone is made diamond-like when the salt and the sulfur, or the spirit and the body, are united through mercury, the link of mind. Man is the incarnated principle of mind, as the animal is of emotion. He stands with one foot on the heavens and the other on the earth. His higher being is lifted to the celestial spheres, but the lower man ties him to matter. Now the philosopher, building his sacred stone, is doing so by harmonizing his spirit and his body. The result is the philosopher's stone. The hard knocks of life chip it away and facet it until it reflects light from a million different angles. A five-pointed star. This picture, known to all Masons, is that of the soul. It is the Star of Bethlehem, which heralds the coming of the Christ within. The two clasped hands are the spirit and body, united in the marriage of the Lamb. It is from the union of the higher with the lower that the Christ is born. The elixir of life is once again the spirit fire, or rather the fuel which nourishes that fire. And the turning of the base metal into gold is accomplished when he transmutes the lower man into spiritual gold. This he does by study and love. Thus, he is building within himself the lost panacea for the world's woe. The turning of the base metal into gold can be called a literal fact, as the same chemical combination which spiritually produces gold will also do this physically. It is a known fact that many of the ancient alchemists really did create the precious metal out of lead, alloy, etc. But it was upon the principle that all things contain some part of everything else. In other words, every grain of sand or drop of water has in some proportion every element of the universe therein. Therefore, the alchemist did not try to make something from nothing, but rather to extract and build that which was already there, that which already was. And this the student knows is the only possible course of procedure. Man can create nothing from nothing, but he does contain within, in potential energy, all things. And like the alchemist with his metals, he is simply working that which he already has. The living philosopher's stone is a very beautiful thing. Indeed, like the fire opal, it shines with a million different lights, changing with the mood of the wearer. The transmuting process, whereby the spiritual fire passing through the furnace of purification radiates from the body as the soul body of gold and blue, is a very beautiful one. Marriage of the sun and moon. This takes place in man when the heart and mind are joined in eternal union. It occurs when the positive and negative poles within are united, and from that union is made the philosopher's stone. The Masons have among their symbols that of a 5-pointed star with 2 clasped hands within it, and in that we have the mystery of the philosopher's stone. The clasped hands represent the united man, in which the higher and the lower are working for their mutual betterment by a cooperative rather than a competitive system. The 5-pointed star is the soul body, born of this cooperation. It is the living philosopher's stone, more precious than all the jewels of earth. From it pour the rivers of life spoken of in the Bible. It is the star of the morning that heralds the dawn of mastery, and is the reward that comes to those who follow in the footsteps of the ancient alchemist. It is well for the student to realize that the alchemy of life produces a natural sequence, all of the states of progression, which are explained in the writings of the alchemist, until finally the sun and the moon are united as described in the Hermetic marriage, which is, in truth, the marriage of the body and the spirit for the mutual development of each other. We are the alchemists who centuries ago carried on in secret our studies of the soul, and we still have the same opportunity that we had then, even more than then, for now we can state our opinions with little danger of personal injury. The modern alchemist thus has an opportunity that his ancient brother never had. On a busy street corner, he daily sees nature's experiments carried on. He sees the mixing of metals, and from the everyday book of life, through the power of analogy, he may study divinity. Through experience and often suffering, the steel of his spirit is tempered by the flame of life. As the moon in the zodiac touches off like a fuse the happenings of life, so his own desires and wishes touch off the powers of his soul, and the experiences may be transmuted into soul qualities when he has developed the eye, which enables him to read the simplest of all books, everyday life. The pillars of the temple. These pillars symbolize the heart and mind, the positive and the negative poles of life. Those who would enter the temple must pass between the pillars. Every extreme is dangerous. It is the point between all poles that is safe to stand upon. You cannot enter the temple by the development of either the heart or mind alone, but only by the equal development of both. The alchemist of today is not hidden in caves and cellars, studying alone, but as he goes on with his work, it is seen that walls are built around him, and while he is in the world, like the master of old, he is not of it. As he goes further in his work, the light of other people's advice and outside help grows weaker and weaker, until finally he stands alone in darkness. And then comes the time that he must use his own lamp, and the various experiments which he has carried on must be his guide. He must take the elixir of life which he has developed, and with it, fill the lamp of his spiritual consciousness, and holding that above his head, walk into the great unknown, where if he has been a good and faithful servant, he will learn of the alchemy of divinity, where now test tubes and bottles are his implements. Then worlds and globes he will study, and as a silent watcher will learn from that divine one, who is the great alchemist of all the universe, the greatest alchemy of all, the creation of life, the maintenance of form, and the building of worlds. The serpent. This is the serpent crown of the ancient gods. It shows that the two paths or parts of the spirit fire have been united. This crown is the symbol of mastery, and the union takes place within the student